your interests change or like whatever it is, right? And like I think that burnout is just something that happens, and at a certain point, if you're not happy, making a switch to something that will make you happy is just it's kind of like the energy that's like building in Sunday that we're trying to like we've been talking about like taglines and like what is our brand message and what are we trying to actually do here, what's like the motive behind it all, and like it's like kind of birthing that energy of taking a chance on something else and leaving something that's comfortable. And it's pretty cool because like all the first founders of like Sunday, all the first people that work here all have similar stories. Like Josh was in medical school, like, and he just like, yeah, he's like, no, I believe in your vision, let's fucking do this. And like Tyler was in finance, and he's like, he's always wanted to be a designer. Kind of starting to see like a cycle of that.
There's a lot of that. We noticed that too with a lot of people. They're just scared to take that jump, and I think you even took that jump at like the highest level, right? It's not like you quit working at McDonald's to go be a painter, you know? Like you did something huge, right, at the highest level. So I think it's inspiring a lot of other creators or other people out there, like you said, your own team, to make that jump.
Yeah, and if that could be a message of a brand to like force people to like, not force, but push people to like take that jump. If they're not happy, like if they really believe in like what they want to do, and not being afraid of like it's gonna be fucking hard. You know what I mean? It's like, just do it. Like,
how about your mental health? Because I know you mentioned that. I know you made a big change in your life when it came to your mental health. So maybe walk us through the process of discovering yourself mentally and learning about, things that you should do to put yourself in a better headspace.
What I've learned, like what are like almost like things that help me do that?
Of course. Like what was the first couple steps where you're like, okay, even with the health and fitness side too, because they kind of coincide, right?
No, they do.
So what were the first steps you took and said, you know what, this is what I need to do to get serious about my health?
No drinking first?
Yeah, probably that's what started it. I think the biggest thing I learned from that was the idea of creating a streak. Like there's like, so say I don't drink for 60 days, and then the idea of having a drink on day 61 is like, not only is it you're battling like that day to have a drink or not, it like helps you push forward because you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to restart 60 days.
True.
And I kind of took that to fitness. I took it to the simplest thing, like it's just structure. So like I made a rule that I have to run at least a mile every day.
Nice.
And it's like, I remember I hit 100 days and I was like, I remember I had a rolled ankle from skating. I was like, my legs were all beat up. It was like 11:30 at night. I got home from work and I still haven't got my mile, and I'm like, dude, I'm just going to bed. And I was like, just go limp and fucking do that mile. Cause like, do you really want to restart that? And then like, I've just been doing that with adding things to my life. Like it could be journaling. It could be like 200 push-ups a day. It could be call your parents, like whatever it is, right? And like you build those streaks, and then those streaks kind of they make it easier to keep pushing it forward.
Kind of gives you like a pressure where you can't stop.
Yeah. It could be like uploading a video every Monday or something, right? True. It's like the same thing. And, I don't know. That was definitely a big thing that I learned that's helped me with just accomplishing the long-term goals.
True.
Because I think that's another thing I dealt with where I was very the amount of times I've lost 30 pounds and fucking gained it back. Like, dude, I fucking like a dozen times in my life. This is the first time I've ever actually like changed my mindset on it, and like it's the corny shit when I say it's a lifestyle. It's like, it's fucking true. It's like,
and how do you notice though, like, because now you're showing it a lot, like, on your personal socials, like how are you noticing your fans, your audience, like how are they interacting now with you being a completely different person? I don't want to say one day you're this party guy, the next day you're not. Obviously there was a transition period over a certain amount of time and you kind of stepped away, but now you come back hard. Sunday, health, I'm fucking running, I just did 10 miles, like
cold plunge,
all this shit. So like, how have you noticed the reactions been?
Oh, they fucking hate me. It's definitely a funny transition, and it's funny because like mentally to you, I've heard other people that like drank, and like comedians will say this a lot. They're like, oh, I know I have to get off of coke or drinking or whatever it is, right? And they're like I think I saw Theo Vaughn say this. He's like, I was scared of like not being funny, people not liking me, not making connections, and not going to like the after party, and that was all the same fears I had too. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to perform, not gonna be able to still operate this business if I don't drink. I mean, especially because at the time my business was like, our business model was partying, you know what I mean? So it was like, I was like, it was very hard to make that switch. But as we transitioned into Sunday, I think that there's obviously a lot of people just know me from Full Send Voice, obviously, and I think it was a hard switch, and I think a lot of people think like I fucking found God or some shit. Like, and there's a lot of like, but like I also just like realized that it's still me, and it's also, this is who I am, and the person that like I was really funny and all those things when I was drinking and shit, but like, I don't know, like, it's almost like that was just a filter of me, and now this is still me. It's just, this is actually me, you know what I mean? So,
Do you feel like everything happens for a reason, in the sense that if you weren't part of Full Send, maybe you wouldn't have found yourself the way you did now, in terms of your health,
oh
your
yeah,
mental, all those things?
yeah, I have no regrets at all. I think that like it was one of the biggest learning curves in life, and taught me everything I know today. And, I don't know. It's the story is. I've always thought like the story of life is like, really interesting to me, and it matters to me a lot. And I think the story's fucking on track. Like, it makes sense in my mind.
And what did you notice about those fears that you initially had, even with Theo Vaughn, what he said? Did that come to life, or was that just like worries that didn't happen, like networking or going to these parties to meet more people? Did you find that actually happened? You started meeting less people or networking, or people found you less funny?
I think I realized that, yeah, you're making that all in your head. You realize that all the people you thought you were connecting with were the same fucking people you're drinking with every night, and you weren't actually doing anything with those connections.
Yeah.
And I think that certain people leave your life, and new people come into your life, because now you're the same person. And it just creates a new world, if that makes sense. Like, you have like new perspectives, you have new hobbies, you have new conversations, and it's just, and I relate to everything that's in my life now, if that makes sense.
Yep.
If you only have people around who are actually interested in living the way you live.
Yeah.
Exactly. You attract people that way, especially when you're doing it, you're putting it out there that you're a certain way now. I think that you attract more people like that.
Speaking to the story though, saying how like life is a story, and there's, you know, chapters and all these things, like, this is totally random, but do you think you'll have a documentary one day? Just because I feel like, especially with what you're doing now, you're gonna be filming your day to day at this point, like, and obviously all the past content, and now Full Send stuff, like, is that ever a thought? Just totally.
Yeah, I think it's hard for it not to be a thought.
For sure.
I think it's I don't want to think of myself too highly, where it's like I need to document, like make a documentary of this whole story, but it would be crazy if like what I thought was a climax of my life was actually just a pivoting point to like another climax. And I really do believe like what we have going on here, and spending a year testing and figuring out like what that is, and then a prior year before that figuring out an idea before we just jumped into something, kind of like we talked before. It was like I did know that I could just slap a name on anything and make some product, and
Sell
all of a
out,
sudden,
kind of like sell out quick. Yeah.
I'm a clothing designer. Ooh, say the word cut and sew 9 times and people buy it. It's like, I know that was a thing, and it's like, I didn't get like, you got to think like, if I'm a humble person and my family's good, I'm good. Why the fuck do I need to go do that? You know what I mean? It makes no sense to me.
True.
And I remember when it clicked with this brand, and I just love the idea, and I love how everything that we're doing is like, it's made to like start small, be super complicated, and then slowly unfold and build.
Yes.
Like, which we could break into, but like basically like, yeah, with the catalog and like the agency, and they all kind of mesh together.
I want to get into that.
Let's do it.
I want to talk about the birth of Sunday.
Yeah.
Was it over a period of time? What's the thought? Because it's crazy, right? Like you said, you guys are still almost learning what this brand is as you're doing it, right? As an agency, product lines, like all these different kind of pillars and arms to this business. So, what was the initial thought, you know, when it came to Sunday, and then, you know, is that still initial, like, let's say, business plan still embedded in what you're doing today?
It definitely is.
Okay.
It's still embedded, and it's constantly warping and changing as we grow. And I think that that's the difference of what we're doing, and I think that's the why, especially say on YouTube, with how we're transparent and we show the business. We showed it from the start, and it's like there's been confusion because people are so used to influencers and YouTube and all this shit, right? They're just showing the wins, and look at our life. And I'm just like, well, let's just show them like the reality of this. And a lot of people did respond like what the fuck is this? How does this company make money? How does this? It's like, you're right. Like, I'm not gonna sit here like I'm fucking Bill Nye the Science Guy. Like, I have all the answers. Like, I don't. Like, I'm figuring it the fuck out. We're all figuring it out. And I don't know. I just think that like showing that is gonna be kind of like it's almost like the Sunday show is a documentary in a way.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Because then in 5 years, if we're on our like 6th location for headquarters and we're doing a Nike deal and it's this fucker, we're on our 3rd film that we're putting out or like whatever it is, it's like people can actually go back to when we were trying to figure it out, and they can even see like what parts were figured out from the start that never changed, and what parts that they thought the direction was changed. And like they can relate to that because they're also because I also see it as like a lot of my audience is probably growing up and fucking
Figuring out life,
trying to buy their first home, trying to figure out like why they're not happy, why they are happy. Like they're trying to figure out shit too. And I just think the last thing I want to do is just advertise how fucking dope I am, how dope my life is, and look at all these wins. It's like, oh man, I'm right there with you. I'm struggling. I'm trying to
very
figure
humble
this out.
of you. Very humble of you.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and just jumping on that quickly, like I think me and Anthony always say this, if you document everything over a few years, the amount of respect people have from you from watching the come up, even the losses, that's a core community that you're building.
Yeah.
Right? Those are people that they feel like they know you because they've seen it. They didn't just see the dope shit. They didn't just see you sell your company. They're watching you lose and they're saying, fuck, I'm losing too, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right. There's wins and losses. That's life. So I have a lot of respect for you doing that.
But and to speak to that, like, I want to know, okay, day one Sunday, what was it? Like, what were the pillars of the business at that point? You got the fucking space ready. You got your boys. Like, okay, what's the business plan at that point?
I would say the whole idea birthed. I remember I was in Big Bear. I was with Aria, Nafis, Tyler, a couple of the guys,
Got some shrooms going or what?
no shrooms,
Okay,
smoking some weed.
nice.
We were in this it was like this weird Airbnb cabin that had this basement. And we were in this basement. We pulled out. I remember I brought you guys see in the back. I got hundreds of samples of clothing, and we got all this clothing. And I'm like, I've always had the name Bloody Sunday, which I've been sitting on, and I'm just like, I just always thought the name was sick. And we're kind of just picking our pieces, what are our hoodies, what are our jackets, which ones we all like. We're doing that. And I remember we thought of this idea of because Sunday was all, sorry, I'm kind of got to backspace this. So Sunday was an idea and Bloody Sunday was an idea.
Okay.
And we were trying to trademark Sunday a day of the week that turned out being impossible. You can't trademark Sunday.
Yeah, I figured.
And then we're kind of on this fuck, we'll I think Bloody Sunday is the wave then. We'll run that. We had the trademarks. But then I had this idea. I remember in the room everyone was like, dude, that's not gonna work. And I'm like, well, where if we just made the brand a color instead?
Okay.
So when people see the color, they're like, oh, that's Sunday. They know it's Sunday, but it doesn't have Sunday on it, so there's no trademark issues, which kind of births the fucking trademark thing. But and I remember it was everyone hated on it. They're like, dude, that's not gonna work. You can't sell black, you can't sell red, you can't sell green, because you gotta only sell this Pantone.
Okay.
And then that kind of birthed the idea of well, where if they're separate companies, and it's Sunday is just the catalog that creates all the SKUs, because we want to really make sure people know that nothing is printable. Everything is has 10 revisions on it. We're gonna perfect the T-shirt all the way to the leather jacket. You know what I mean? And then it's also a way that when we're adding it to the collection, it feels special. It's not just in the background, we're gonna go cut and sew and make this perfect hoodie, and then we're gonna drop it and have it in collections and design on it. It's no, you know it's part of the collection. You know it's part of the catalog because it drops in the green, and then it never drops again.
Okay.
And now it's building a catalog, which kind of started birthing the idea of like, you know, a venture studio or an agency or a blanks program of like, well, where if other companies would want to use these blanks? And then that's kind of what plays on the word of like Sunday and then Bloody Sunday. It's like, it's blooding it up. It's like, it can be designed on, it can do whatever it wants. That's the streetwear brand.
Sick.
And, sorry, it's a lot of information. I'm trying to like gather through it.
Well,
but
it makes sense. It started pretty much like, but ultimately, for anyone like listening or watching, like, it started with the clothing first. Like that was
Yeah.
always the kind of
yeah,
basis.
exactly.
And your own clothing.